Renergen could be one of the biggest investment opportunities available in South Africa, or it could be one of the easiest ways to lose your money. By the end of this video, you will know the true story of Renergen. Renergen is a South African public company with the potential to be one of the biggest helium producers in the world. They have been listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange since 2015. They are also listed on the South African A2X Exchange and Australian Securities Exchange, with a further IPO on the Nasdaq in the pipeline. Through their subsidiary, Tetra 4, they operate an extraction site near Virginia, located in the Free State Province. This is around 250 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg. From this extraction site, they produce liquefied natural gas and hope to soon produce commercial quantities of helium. Renergen is currently the only company in South Africa with onshore production rights for petroleum products. This graph shows the massive quantity of helium that Renergen has access to. Renergen alone has more helium than any other country in the world. They also have a much higher concentration of helium, of about 3% compared to 0.5% and below for other countries. Renergen estimates that by phase 2 of their project, they will be producing enough helium to supply approximately 10% of global demand. This will put South Africa on the map as one of only 8 countries in the world that produce helium. These are the phase 2 production predictions. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Renergen expects to meet this in about 2026 or 2027. If they manage to meet these production goals, they are expecting to make earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization of about 5.7 billion rand per year. This dwarfs the current market cap of 1.7 billion rand. This highlights why there is so much speculative investing with the stock. Many retail investors are hoping for their big break with this share. But let's have a look at the share price chart of Renergen. If you had invested 2 years ago at close to Renergen's peak, you would have paid 41 Rand 80 cents per share. Currently, Renergen sells for about 11 Rand 74 cents per share. This is a drop of about 72% in 2 years. This is not a particularly great investment return. The origin story of Renergen is where some of the controversy about this company begins. Here is a timeline of events as provided by Renergen. In 1998, a farmer discovered methane gas on their property near Virginia in the Free State. In 2004, a feasibility study concluded that there was a presence of gas, and Highlands Exploration applied for further exploration rights. In 2005, an Australian firm, Malopo Energy, bought out Highlands and created Malopo South Africa. In 2012, production rights were granted for the Virginia site. In 2013, Malopo South Africa deemed the project unfeasible due to low compressed natural gas prices. Windfall Pty Ltd buys out Malopo South Africa for $1 and takes on a debt to Malopo Australia for 50 million rand. Windfall is headed by Stefano Marani and Nick Mitchell, the CEO and COO of Renergen. In 2015, Renergen, headed by Stefano and Nick, buys Malopo from Windfall for 650 million rand in cash and shares of Renergen. They then renamed it Tetra 4. The 50 million rand loan is still on the books of Renergen and owed to Malopo Australia. So if you're keeping track, Stefano and Nick essentially made 650 million rand over the period of 2 years. They justify this massive markup due to additional exploration that was conducted to prove the helium reserves. They also say that the board decided on the price independently of their involvement. When I think of helium, I think of the balloons making the house from up float off into the sky. But helium is more useful than just for balloons. It has various properties that make it useful in a wide range of applications. It is inert, meaning it does not react chemically with other elements. It is also lighter than air, hence why it makes balloons float. Here you can see the top uses of helium. These are all growing industries, with the most demand growth coming from Asia. This has led to a net shortage in the market for helium. And depending on the source, the long-term price of helium is expected to double into the future. Helium is not traded on the market like oil or gold. This makes it significantly more difficult to determine a price for helium, as each contract is negotiated on a case-by-case basis. Renergen is not the only company trying to ramp up production of helium. Another example is Russia's Amur gas plant. This was delayed by a fire at the plant and has also been hampered by Russia's current sanctions, which limit both the importation of parts and the export of helium. This highlights the importance of how foreign policy in South Africa is also another risk faced by Renergen, as the ability to export large amounts of helium relies on us being friendly with the rest of the world. The other product Renergen produces is liquefied natural gas. This is the only product they are currently receiving revenue from. Production of liquefied natural gas began in September 2022. This is touted by Renergen as a more environmentally friendly alternative to other fossil fuels due to their lower carbon emissions. Long term, the demand for LNG is expected to fall in most countries as they move away from fossil fuels entirely. There will still be opportunities within developing markets who aim to lower emissions but cannot remove them entirely. Currently, they sell their LNG to Consol Glass and Ceramic Industries, who is owned by Italtile. They have also signed an agreement with Timelink, a logistics company, who is expected to run a portion of their trucks using liquefied natural gas. This is expected to reduce Timelink's carbon emissions as well as lower their diesel bill. The production of LNG has not been without its hiccups. The LNG plant was taken out of action for maintenance from September 2023 to February 2024. Production was still up year on year, with revenue increasing by 128%. This did not help the company make a profit in the 2024 financial year, as the loss for the year increased from 26 million to 109 million rand. Production levels are still only at 25% of what Phase 1 expected them to be. To put it bluntly, Renergen has failed to sell any helium as yet, even though they expected these sales to commence in 2019. After the 2019 deadline was missed, Renergen said they would produce 350 kgs of helium daily by 2021. Again, this did not happen. In January of 2023, Renergen announced their first helium production. 6 months later, in June, they announced a problem with part of the helium production process. This led to production being suspended and only recommencing in April of 2024. There were no helium sales in 2023. This raises the question of what went on between January and June, as Renergen had 6 months to produce and sell helium, yet did not. This sparked a social media controversy in October of 2023, with activist investor LB Saliers calling out the company on X. Particular issue was taken with the use of this photograph. This may seem like people standing in front of a container truck, but it implies much more than that. These are tanks used to transport helium to sell. By having one on site, it appears like the company is producing helium for sale, when this has in fact never occurred. Renergen seems to have a history of misleading investors when it comes to their expected production deadlines. Only time will tell whether these production challenges are just growing pains for a new company operating in a niche industry, or if there are bigger issues at play. Hopefully, for the sake of the investors and South Africa as a whole, Renergen successfully ramps up their production and becomes a helium giant. Thank you for watching the story of Renergen.